That's going to take a while. I can do about one in an hour. Oh, there's 591. Let's go down here. So yeah, I can do one in a session. Little bit more, but not much. Plus, there's a lot with electrics. There's a lot of trial and error, making sure the switch is in exactly the right position, or the motor is in exactly the right position for the switch to move the distances it needs to be able to. And so, yeah. Then once all the switches are in, I've probably got about 8 to do. And some of them need a piece of wood between the baseboard and where it can sit, so that the connectors are all clear of any obstructions. And unfortunately, pre-planning was not a thing I considered. So I did make sure that all the turnouts were not over a support beam. Unfortunately, I did not make sure that the switch motors would also not be what's the word for it? Impeded by a short support beam, and that's the bit I kind of missed. So in some situations I have had to put in an extra piece of wood to screw the motor into, so I can still get at the connectors and the adjusters. And that's the problem I have with the motor I started last week, or on Wednesday, was it's going to fit, but I can't plug in the connectors because there's a piece of wood in the way. So I'm going to have to cut at that, and I think I'm also going to need to give it it's technically a 1-inch piece of wood. No, it might be a half-inch piece of wood booster away from the bottom of the board, so other things can happen as well. So it's slow working, and then if I'm doing that, I can't do painting, but I'm not worried about the painting. I can carry on doing painting for the rest of the year, so long as the station gets done before I start placing the structure, the platforms, the buildings, and everything else. The station needs to get painted before I do those, but once I've done those, or once I've done that painting, I then have another project I can do at the same time I'm doing painting. So if I can't do a bit of a project, well, I can go down and paint for an hour. The more projects you have, we're running out of Bale wrap. The more projects you have available to do, the more progress you can make. Because, if I can't do this project today, I can always do a different one. But if I end up, I've done all of the painting, then I have to do other projects. And if I don't have what I need to do one of them, now it's a problem. Now I have to come up with something else to do, or I can't. And that was the problem with some of the track laying was, I need to cut a whole bunch of bits of wood. Okay, but it's raining outside, so I can't do that. till it's used. Yes. And fill it up, and off we go again. We just got charged 800. It's not bad. And something's on sale. I need to look at what's on sale. Ooh. I think that's a picker-upper. And that is a shallow cultivate. That's awesome. Actually, 53,000. Don't know what 400 horsepower. Yeah, never mind. Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. I could use that, except I can't because none of my horsepowers are big enough. So yeah, the problem with doing the track was I need to cut wood, and if the weather's bad, I can't go down and cut the wood. Then I need to screw the bits of wood into the benchwork so that that's all done, and you've got to measure that. So you don't make much progress doing that in an hour because each piece has to be carefully planned where it's going to go. Then you have to cut the cork to go on it, but you can't cut the cork ahead of time because you don't know exactly what sweep you need on the cork to actually make it all work. And then you have to glue the cork down. Now the advantage was I could glue the cork down, and then I could paint what was dry. And that's where I figured my first error. I was using some water-soluble glue with water-soluble paint, so the paint soaked into the cork and it all came unstuck. So I used a different construction PVA to glue the cork down to the foam, and then paint it, and that works. And then track laying, I would glue down the track. That's good. But then I would test. Once it was dry, I would test run a thing around it, or I would eyeball it. And it's just, okay, I've got kinks in that. So I would have to lift the track and then relay it and glue it again. So I can't progress to the next piece of track because the current piece of track has got all the weights on top of it to hold it down while the glue's drying. So I could get potentially 6 feet of track on one loop. So, you know, as we were talking, 100 feet for 2 circles. 6 feet is not a lot, but, you know, it was progress every day. I set the goal to do. I will do one loop per month. So by the end of April, I will have a loop of track done. And I think I was fairly good on hitting those targets. And if you do 6s into 54 is probably about 9. 6 9s of 54. I mean, it's only 9 days, and it actually took me about 30 days, well, 20 days, because I had to unstick things and stick things back down again, and etc., etc. And there was a bit where I just continually had to take the track up and put it back down again before it actually sat right. The curves were a generous, smooth curve rather than, a tight bit, a shallow bit, a tight bit, a shallow bit, because rolling stock does not like undulating curves or meandering curves. It kind of likes a fairly consistent curve. And then there was, there was 6, about 9 days to lay the track and about 9 days to wire it all in. And then once the loop was wired in, I could run a train round and see if there was any problems. And there were problems. So there were a couple of... you run 2 or 3 trains round. You run one train round a few times and see if there's any issues. And then you run another train round a few times to see if that one has any issues. And then ideally you take a third one, and each one is different. So you've got a freight train, a passenger train with short cars, a passenger train with long cars, just to see, if there's any issues anywhere. And if all 3 types of train run round, then you're probably good. But in some situations I had, okay, this bit here, every single train comes off the track. So I had to lift the whole track in that section and relay it and go again. And then once you finish the outside track, you do the inside track, which is another 9-10 days to get the track laid, and plus resituating where it's not smooth, and then wire it in, which is about another 10 days. And then, because as I'm wiring it in, I am testing that the wiring works. I have a rake of passenger coaches which have lights in, so I would put in the wires and then check them with a 9-volt battery, and if the lights came on the coach, then I guess that was good wiring and soldering. And if it didn't work, then okay, I have to figure out what's wrong with the electrics. But once that got all done, I could run the train round the other track and see if that was giving me problems, which invariably it did. And the harvester needs emptied again. I now have 2 fairly stable tracks. I don't think I've got any derailment problems. I don't have any electrical problems. I have an electrical glitch area where some of the the problem is I've got very long locomotives. They're all tender driven with pickups in the locomotive and the tender, so that's like 12 wheels of pickup. And I think it was August, just before the tariffs kicked in, I got a 6-wheel locomotive. So it's 3 pickups per side. So the length of track that is being picked up from is not quite so, not as long as the tender drives or the tender locomotives. You're talking a difference of like 3 inches of pickup length versus 10 inches of pickup length. So 10 inches, I don't have any problems with the track at a 10-inch distance. I do have a couple of electrical issues with 3 inches. So there is a section of track at some point I am going to have to do some electrical analysis and figure out which power feed isn't working. Once I figured that out, I should be fairly good. Okay, that's all of the bales wrapped, and we're just going to leave these on this field until they're fermented, which will be about 3 days. you going to fold up? Why is this not folding up? Oh, there we go. I wasn't looking at the pickup bar, which delays the fold. Okay, that's done. Pull this in here. I will hitch back up onto the baler, I think, and go see if I can bale some of that straw. Ooh. Or just mess things up completely. Yeah, like I said, I just need to go and check that piece. It's an entire section, and I think it's both insides and outside, where the electrical contacts, it's the last piece I did, is a little bit squirrely. And I need an electrical tester to check that there is feed across the tracks. Then once that's done, I should get fairly reliable running for everything. And the track laying will be deemed sufficiently complete. All right. This filled up as well. We do not have a lot of diesel left in the diesel supply tank. Okay, John Deere's working fine. I need to expand the bale size to 180. Are we out of diesel on here? Oh yeah, okay. When I saw this demoed, I did think that this was a little bit smoother. It wasn't quite so, 200, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. I did think it was more forgiving, and if I wanted to buy 450 litres, I could buy 450 litres. Turns out, nope. Unfortunate, but that's fine. Oh, you know what I think I might do though? Before we depart, let me all right, and back that up a little bit more. Can I do that now? No. Okay, is there an unfold button? Cover N. Oh. How do I refill it? Is there an R? Okay, let's jump out, move that a little bit closer. Open cover. I'm just not seeing. I wonder if I can only fill it up when it's completely empty. That would be annoying as all get out. Although there are mods that allow me to put Bale wrap on a carrier on the front of the tractor. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if the chrome baler is compatible. But the chrome baler, you cannot do an in-field refill. You have to buy the consumable and install it yourself. Or bring it back to the farm and actually physically have it. Unlike the wrapper, which you can either I think it's a setup when you buy it. You can either make it so that it has to fill. Where's the harvester gone? Has to, what am I saying? Yeah, you can just fill it anywhere. You can either force it that you have to buy the consumable at the store and bring it back, or you can just leave it as auto load. So as soon as it runs out, it says, "Hey, I've got nothing left." You just press the R key, bang, you get charged, and it automatically, magically fills up. Chrome doesn't allow that option. You have to buy the consumable from the store and bring it back. So we might have to do that. I can use the pickup. Oh, good news is I got the driver car for 100 kilometers using my pickup a couple of weeks ago. I didn't even notice. It just happened. Okay, we're a quarter of the way through this harvesting contract, so that's all good. He's off. I'm going to take what I have. So what's the next? The next thing? Yeah, I mean, part of the problem with once I start getting the track painted, I've got to make sure it's clean again. So there'll be another test run of trains running around and making sure that the electrics are still working, the track's all clean. And then I can start major scenery work and things like putting in the station, especially the station platforms. If I've got somewhere for people to stand, then excuse me while I fix this error. There we go. Yeah, I can start doing the buildings. I can then start ballasting the track and making it look a little bit more like a railway and less like a building construction site. And then after that's all done, I wonder if we're going to get this truck fully loaded. I'm thinking not quite. Oh well. We'll park this here. Turn the engine off and let's go find the baler again. Actually, you know what? Let's back this guy up. Actually, that's correct. That's awesome. Okay, that's probably going to be a big problem later. And then I can start working on fields and towns and hillsides, and still not entirely sure if I'm going to include a white horse. Chalk horse on the hillside. Or a field of sheep. One or the other. But, that's probably another year before we get round to that. At the moment, I only have 4 trains I can run. So I have to run 2 at a time each direction. Or one direction, depending on how many hands